SABC, host broadcaster of the G20 South Africa 2025.
Well, in the lead up to the Leaders Summit this weekend, President Cyril Ramaphosa says that South Africa is well positioned to enable investment and trade across Africa. Now, let's take you to the Sandton Convention Centre, and this is, of course, where our economics editor, Tshepo Mongoai, is. And Tshepo, good morning to you once again, and just coming back to you there and looking at, of course, the business track of the B20, which is, of course, crucial.
Absolutely, yes. That's where we are at the Sandton Convention Centre, where the Business 20, or so-called B20, is gathering. Of course, it's a gathering of the business community. It's a global business community from around the world, and of course, local businesses and CEOs also a strong showing there, representing South Africa, discussing various issues that affect business. And what has been quite interesting is the level of consensus among business. It has been quite much easier to arrive at some of the recommendations. I mean, you look at, for example, on the infrastructure and energy, there have been some strong agreements that came out of there. But I suppose it's easier with business because the main aim is to generate profits. And if indeed some of these talks can help business make more money, they always agree, irrespective of geopolitical tensions that we are seeing or where they may be coming from in terms of a geographic location. And of course, the Africa agenda has been a very, very strong focus here with high-level discussions happening. But for more, we are joined by the CEO of Brand SA, Neville Maji. Just to tell us, there's been high-level discussions. As Brand SA, how do you translate all those discussions in a way that ordinary South Africans will understand and own up to these events as well and feel they're part of it?
Yeah, it's been a process. It's been a journey. We are finally here. I think the most critical thing and the excitement that has been built up both within the government as well as in the business community is that there's been a general consensus. As you've indicated, there was policy statements that were made by the work streams of the B20 that were handed over to Minister Lamola a few weeks ago. Last week we had a session really which we termed as bridging the gap between B20 and G20, which was well supported both by workstream conveners as well as government representatives, the Sue Sherpa as well as Deputy Minister Kotlimpi. The messaging behind it has been really to showcase South Africa as the front runner, as the powerhouse in terms of policy, in terms of coordination, and in terms of ensuring a unified voice for the African continent. Of course, the AU has been part of the process. President Ramaphosa has made it clear that in as much as the G20 is the first time coming onto the continent, that it's in South Africa, it's really resonant that it represents the rest of the continent. That is why you've seen that strong participation from Africa, from many African countries, a number of them that will be participating in the session.
As Brenda say, how do you show that there is a measurable impact on the G20 or B20 Brand SA activities?
Yeah, so we focus predominantly on perceptions, and that's the best way in which you can measure how the country's brand fares. And leading to G20, we've done a number of international platforms with the team from B20 and the team from G20. And in all the markets, the major excitement and support for South Africa has been extremely overwhelming. Despite some of the geopolitics, it has been quite clear that the message of South Africa as a destination of choice has been quite resonant. Our president has led some delegations into the ASEAN region, into Europe and other markets where there's been strong support. What is quite clear with business is, they don't mince their words. They're quite clear in terms of their position. We participated at the UN General Assembly, and the business community within the United States very supportive of South Africa, and they're going to be here today in their strongest contingent. And we've seen that in all the different markets. So in essence, as Brand South Africa, we're quite excited about that globally the perceptions are quite positive about South Africa, and we've done a remarkable job in showcasing our best foot.
What are the legacy projects that will be left by this South Africa hosting the G20 summit?
Yeah, the most critical one, really, if you look at the four critical priorities of the G20 that government has outlined, the first one is around disaster management and how the response is going to be coordinated within the disaster management side. There's been a number of inroads taken to ensure that both from a private sector, a government, and a policy perspective, we're quite clear in our response rate. The second one is, again, access to finance and reducing debt, especially for poor countries, economies, and there's been major strides. Again, general consensus and the link between the private sector as well as what government can do to actually reduce debt, including the international lenders, whom unfortunately, when you look at the debt or the loans that are offered to African countries, they come up with huge interest rates as opposed to other markets. And then, of course, the last one is specifically our critical minerals, specifically focusing on localization and manufacturing.
All right, thank you very much. That's Neville March. He's the CEO of Brand SA there, highlighting some of the legacies that will be left from hosting this very important G20 summit. It's back to you in studio, yeah.
Thanks so much, Tshepo Mongoai.